You do hear me? Everyone? Okay, good. And the video is okay? Or a little bit closer. Yeah. It's a tough job for a sound engineer working in the morning. They usually work in night, so we need to be a little bit forgiving. Yeah. I can speak now? Yeah? Okay. You'll work on the feedback. All right. All right. So welcome and thank you for turning up. Um, this session is titled "Become a Champion of Modular Code." So maybe you will be that after this session, or maybe not, or maybe you are already champions. So, to those of you who don't know me, my name is Claus Lavendt. I run a company called Datamanics in Denmark. I've been around since '94. I don't know what else is interesting, but as many of you, I don't have a background in IT or software programming, which is probably why I ended up with FileMaker. Right. So, what's in it for you? The idea is that you will learn some new concepts and become better at coding smart after this one. You'll get some tricks that you can apply immediately, and we will look into code. And there is actually a demo file, or maybe Katja will upload it sometime today, that we are looking into, and then you can grab that and dig into it yourself. So if this sounds boring, then you are free to leave, or you can start sleeping now. All right? Still want to hang on? Great. Right, so this is what I want to go over in this session. So what is modular code? We have a lot of fancy words flying all over, but let's get to the bottom of it. What is it we really mean? I'm going to present a concept of function and utility scripts versus flow scripts. And I'm going to look into some code where I hope that I will be successful in explaining what I mean here. And that leads to, well, code smart and reduce your code and do something more interesting, and then Q&A at the end, right? You still want to hang on? Awesome. Oh, I'm so happy. So what is modular code? What do we mean when we say modular code? Well, first of all, it's code that is reusable. That's the main goal with modular code. It is code where you write something that can be used over and over and over again. And in order to get there, we need to look at how to abstract the code from the logic and from the business rules in the solution. And it's much about separating functionality from logic, right? So modular code can be anything, and it sounds nice when we say that we code in FileMaker. Everyone knows that we're not coding, we're scripting, but nonetheless, it's most about scripting. But modular code can be so many things. It can be a custom function that is doing abstraction. I can show an example and a story later, but it's mostly scripts because we spend most of our day doing scripts when we do the coding, not the interface. It can even be a full-fledged module that you pack into an add-on module. And if you want to know more about add-ons, you can watch the session that David is doing, where he's talking about how that is technically done in FileMaker. So I'm not gonna dig into how to build an add-on. Fabrice is also doing a session. Maybe not today. No, in Austin, yeah. So you can go to Austin and watch his session and learn all about how to do it, right? So I'm not going to go into details about that. I'm going to talk about more the concepts, right? So why should we even consider doing modular code, right? So the question is more, do you like to repeat yourself? No. It's not fun, right? And what we do all day long is we try to optimize the workflows for our users, our customers, so they can become smarter and work better. Why shouldn't we do the same thing for ourselves, right? Why make it harder? So reusable code is simply something you can use over and over again instead of writing similar code. I will get into more details if this sounds a little bit, yeah, I know that already. But I just want to have the concepts laid out from the start. One thing we try to avoid is to have duplicate data in our databases, right? So that's why we are using a relational database in FileMaker. We try to have the same data only one time stored. It's actually something we should try to use as well for scripting. So instead of having the same code over and over again, we should try to have it only in one place. That goes for many things and many situations, but of course not always. So in order to get there, we need to be able to look at how to abstract the code. Abstract the code from the business rules. And this is where it becomes an exercise in how you think about doing the functionality, the workflows, and all the functionality in your solution. And when looking into abstracting the code, it's much about writing something that is variable, meaning that it's not hard-coded, really, right? Hard-coded is never, well, rarely a good thing, because if you need to do, when you need to do modifications, right, then you put a lot of work on yourself. So that's the idea. So instead of hard-coding fields, it could be a better idea to turn to variables. And variables is not only set variable, variables is many things, as I'm gonna show. So the main idea here is to separate the functionality from the logic. So functionality is like a function. So when you write a script, FileMaker has made all these script steps for us. That's a function, right? And we can just use a function like that: set fields, commit, send mail, whatever. And that is really nice. But beneath that is a whole ton of code, right? Just the send mail script step. That's just one line in our scripting, but the code beneath it is extremely comprehensive. We don't see that, and we don't care, because we trust that those people who built that function was good at building code, and they have handled the error handling and all the other stuff, right? But why can't we just do the same thing? Well, we can. And that is functionality. The logic is the business logic. So a business logic would be like, okay, so an order comes in, I check that we have picked it from the shelf, we have packed it, and now it's shipped. So then it sets It starts a flow with sending an email to the customer. Now your order is on its way. Here's the track and trace number. Here's your invoice, blah, 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 right? And then maybe 2 days later, there's another email going out saying, did you like your products? Would you like to order from us again? Or by the way, here's a good offer, or whatever business logic is involved, right? So that's the logic in it. All right. So what I'm really talking about is scripting, because, and that's where the main focus will be, because that's our code space. That's scripting. I know there's web viewers, there's other types of code plugins as well, but our main code base is scripting. Okay. So the concept I have here is that in general, you can divide scripts into 3 different types. We have the flow scripts, which are those who contain the business logic. So saying now there's an order, and based on that, we have a series of actions going on. Then we have function scripts. And a function script is just like a script step. It's a series of commands, but it's a package of code. It's a module of code. And I'm going to come back to why that is a good idea of using that. And finally, there's some utility scripts. So a utility script is a script or some code that does something. For example, validating a block of text. It could be validating that an email address is really an email address, or if you have a function that sends out SMS, before trying to send the SMS, we want to validate that, yeah, it's really a valid mobile number before we are trying. Then something else can go wrong, of course, along the way. But we want to do these kind of pre-flight check before we move on. So that's utility scripts. And utility scripts is basically some code that is doing something as a part of the process. You could also call it a subscript, but utility script is confined to doing something. So as I said, the flow scripts are containing the business logic, and they contain a series of functions and steps that makes a workflow. So that's the idea with having a flow script that is doing a series of things. And the flow scripts is really what makes your solution smart. It's where you have thought the process, you have been with the customer or the user and say, okay, how can I make your life easier, right? That's really where we shine as developers, when we can build great flow scripts that is reducing the time for the user to do something in that day. And the function scripts are, just like I said, they perform a function, like a script step, or a custom function, because sometimes you need something big and sometimes you need something small, right? I'm going to give some examples. The great thing about building a script as a function is that you can write something that needs to be really complex into a script, and by using this concept of these types of scripts, it's just a matter of learning which parameters do I need to send to this script in order to make it do something. I don't even know what's going on, but I know it's working. And if something goes wrong, I get something back, an error reporting back that I can handle afterwards. And that's really great with these scripts, that we can do that. We're not confined to a calculation. And the utility scripts, like I said, it could also be transforming data. So you have a set of records that you are grabbing some data from, and then let's say you need to send an email. So you need to merge into a template, you need to merge name or address or order or whatever into that. So a utility script will transform that data, taking, okay, here's the template, here's the found set, and now I'm transforming it so it's working and it's ready to send out or be used in other places. So the idea is that we have a flow script that is the master. A flow script can call function scripts, which then again can call different kinds of utility scripts for validation, for transforming, for whatever, right? So that's the idea, and of course a flow script can call many more function scripts. So let's just dig into a real example of something. So something that is hard-coded, like you need to do a search, right? This is really hard-coded. It's just a simple example, but we all know this stuff. We have something and we know we need to go and find, get a found set to work on. That's where most of flow scripts really start, is like we need to have a found set. So we can put this in and then we can add on to that because the customer needs to have more criteria, or we need to do a different type of search. And we need to write these steps all the time. This is just a simple example of searching. There could be many more, much more complicated ones. And that's also a point of where things can go wrong. And when we write these steps all over again, then the error handling is just as brilliant as Philip. Sorry, that's your colleague. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm so bad with names. So he just showed yesterday his creates. I don't know if you saw that, and he showed in the script what we tend to do very often. If an error, and then there's a comment, do error handling here, without doing it. That's just a comment. Yeah, I know I need to do error handling, but no, let me move on, right? So that's another reason for building these function scripts, because if you know you're going to use it over and over again, you can put a little bit more effort into also taking care of error handling properly, right? And there's another session, I think, after this or later today about error handling. So I think that's a good follow-up. Okay, so building modular code instead of this hard-coded stuff. And I know this is only 12 lines, no, not even, 5, 6, 7 lines of code. And that doesn't look very much of code. And if you're building a function script, you need to add more code, of course. So in this example, you could think, why the hell is he really spending time on building this into a function script? And maybe it's not the best example, but modular code will be something like this, easy to read, right? The idea is, this is not even very much. The idea is that the script parameter is a JSON, and where you put in what is the field name and what is the value where you need to search, and then you just add how many fields and how many criteria. So it's just a matter of building that JSON. And if you don't work a lot with JSON, then it's also a great excuse for being better at writing JSON that you can use all over the place, right? But you can build in stuff here. And the great thing is that you can also add to this function without breaking the code for existing users. you can just add on some more functionality, like should this be an omit request or extend or constrain, for example, with this search. So you can just add on to that. And the code is basically just looking into that JSON in order to find out. So there's only set field by name one time, instead of having set field 4 times for the 4 criteria that we need to search for. So that's the idea. And this particular code can be used for, we enter find mode, but we don't need to enter find mode. It could also be used to passing out data into a database. So instead of saying, oh yeah, I know I have this property in the JSON, and then I need to grab this value, and then I need to do set field. Now the JSON changes. Oh man, I need to modify my code again. If you're using function scripts like this, just feed it the JSON, and it will just pass it out, right? You don't even need to use JSON. You can use CSV as well, or a list of field names, and say, okay, so here, and basically have a CSV. This is the list of field names, and then just calculate it, and it passes out. That's a function, right? So this is a set field script step function script that is much more variable, and it's easier to maintain over time. Okay, still looks a little bit complicated. Should we look into FileMaker? Yeah, that's much more fun, right? Okay, so this is the file that you will also get. There was a reason I had this open. Mirror. Now you see it. Awesome. And yeah, almost readable. So this is just a template, the contacts database. I just got a set of mock-up data from the internet, just imported. It's really not the data or the solution itself that is interesting. The scripting is, let me see, yeah. Thank you, Christian. Easier to see now? Okay, good. All right, so I said that we had 3 types of scripts, right? Flow, function, and utility. Of course, there's more than just 3 types of scripts, but that's the main thing. So I like to put in some settings in a global variable. We used to have for a lot of these types of settings or things that needs globals, we used to have a global table or put it into the data somewhere. But very often these things don't change, and I don't need to change the value. So it's just a field that needs to be there in order to hold a value. And instead, I like to put it into a settings stuff, settings variable. Huh? No? No. Okay. So I can zoom here instead, right? So the two, let me start over, right? So what I want to show is 2 examples. Well, here's the performance search, so you can dig into that, but send SMS and send mail is the 2 function scripts I want to dig into. And for those to work perfectly, there's some setup that I need. Okay. I've got something. Note to myself. So for the SMS to work, I need some API key. I need who's the sender, what is the endpoint, or stuff like that. The same with the email stuff. There's some settings there. I shouldn't have shown you this, but because there's some real credentials that needs to be changed. It's okay. But anyway, so there's some setup there that we need to grab in order to really use these functions. And if something changes, then we are just changing the settings and load that again. It could come from a script, it could come from a table, it could come from a different file. Really doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that we put it up into a global variable, so we always refer to that global variable, no matter where it really is stored, because then I don't need to change the scripts, because I know it's always there, right? I just need to load it at startup. Okay, so the first one is send an SMS. So the idea is that we have a JSON here. Is that kind of okay, right? You can see it? Yeah. So the idea is that do we want to do validation, and what do we want to happen if the validation fail? Then there's some setup which are optional if you want different sender name, for example, on these SMS. And then we have an array with recipients that basically have for SMS 3 values. There's the country code, the number, and the message you want to send. And then you just build an array. And again, if you don't do a lot of JSON, then this is a great excuse for learning how to build it. But it's pretty easy, and it has the same structure always. So this is the script parameter. Remember, this is a function, so it's a script you can call from all over the place. From other scripts, even from buttons on the layout, if you like to. So it's just say, okay, you need to give me some parameters, and the parameters has this structure. I always like to do the same thing as I think Philip did. Philippe, where I just put the sample code in here, so it's 3 script steps that you just copy and paste into your flow scripts whenever you want to use this function. And then you have a great starting point. This is FileMaker scripting. There's some like plugin calls where you get all the parameters and description of what is expected to be in these parameters. But here's just 3 lines and basically setting a script parameter. Maybe I should do like this, so it's easier to read. Do the script parameter, run the scripts, and then there's a result coming back, and in the result, I also, in the comments, say, yeah, so this is how it's supposed to look like, the result. And there's some error coding here. These error codes are specific for the gateway that I'm using for this example. So it can be different, but the main thing is that, hey, if something goes wrong, the result is empty, otherwise there's something in the result and it looks like this, and then you can do what you want afterwards. Do the error handling or the stuff that goes on afterwards. All right, so what's going on if the settings is not set? And again, this is, not again, but this is just one thing we like to use is domain-based naming for variables. So DM means, yeah, data matrix, and settings, or it could be for this module or this add-on, whatever. We use these domain-based naming because it's easier to see where does this come from, what is it used for, or we can collect it into the same big one. So always check if it's set, otherwise then let's set it. And here's something that is really important with SMS and emails. because we don't want to have real SMS or emails going out while we are testing, right? So we always go into debug mode if the host name is not equal to whatever host name is the live one, which means that when we do development on the development server, it would not have the right host name. So it will always automatically go into debug mode instead of having the risk of sending out real emails or SMSs. So we do that, and I'm adding to the param. Okay, I just put it $param instead of get script parameter. It's just easier to put it into a variable in the start of the script. But I'm adding information to whatever was put into this function, right? So I'm adding, yeah, we are in debug mode, and this is the debug number, mobile number that should be used, because then you can see it afterwards. The script is meant to just be fed with a JSON with the parameters and never to be looked at. So it's important that what you get back from the script is actually telling you what went on. Yeah, we were in debug mode, and this was the number that we were sending to. So here, before we do anything, let's validate that we have real mobile numbers here. That's the utility script. Oh. Why didn't it work? Okay, anyway. So now we go here, and I'm just sending the entire script parameter into this utility script. I'm looking at the recipient array that I know is there, because otherwise nothing is working. I take that, and then in a loop, I'm gonna say, determine, is this valid? Okay, and how are the rules? For this example, I just put in for Denmark and Belgium, because we are in Belgium and I'm from Denmark. I had some Danish numbers. And actually there's some rules about, okay, for this country code, if the phone number starts with, like here in Denmark, 30, 31, 40, whatever, then it is actually a mobile number. Instead of a landline. There's no landline who can receive an SMS, so there's no point in trying to send it. So let's validate that before. And just say, there's a comment here where I found this list. There's also APIs you can use to ask if this is a valid number. There's an example of an Amazon service. But basically, I'm saying, is this number valid or not? And then I'm adding a key to the JSON for each of the recipients, saying, yeah, this number is valid. No, it's not valid. So the JSON is just being added and information about the number if it's valid. So this is the validation stuff. And then we get it back to the function script, and now there comes some nice things or simple things about the API URL, the API key, who's the sender, and so on. And we grab that from the settings and looking into the parameter if we need to override the default sender name. So on. Let's have the recipients. We are counting how many are there. And then in a loop, we are gonna send out these ones. But here we are looking at the key that was just added in the utility script. Is this valid or not? If it's not valid, then we don't want to bother sending it to the gateway, maybe even paying for that, just to have it returned, yeah, this is not a valid number, or yeah, we tried to send it, but we couldn't deliver because it was a landline, or the number is not valid, right? So we're just doing this, and this is just insert from URL, nothing interesting there. One thing we do already in the first run, say, okay, if we have an error that means that the API key, for example, is wrong, then there's no point in continuing, because we cannot continue from here and send something. So imagine you have 1,000 numbers that you need to send to, and you find out with the first sending, yeah, the API key is invalid. Okay, let me try the next one. Yeah, no, it's not. Just because you try again, it doesn't mean that your API key suddenly is valid. Something else is wrong. So we exit here already. But other than that, we are putting in the result from this gateway. This gateway has a JSON it returns with some information about message ID or even the cost or whatever. And we put this into a key called result. That's the result. So the JSON is just getting fatter during this process. And at the end, we are just returning that result to the calling script, which is, of course, a flow script. And in the flow script, it's up to you saying, okay, now I have sent those SMSs out. What do I want to do with the result? Do I just trash it, or do I want to write something to the customer's record, or do I want to create a new record for communication so that I have a log of what was sent out or not? That's really up to you. But the function is doing exactly that thing. And the good thing here is that when I need to, so everyone knows when you come up with a great idea, a great feature like sending out SMS for a particular situation, the customer becomes so excited about this that, yeah, I want to use that in this situation and this one and this one and this one. Then you could copy and paste the code all over, which is a typical situation because it's slightly different or then. But now chances are that you need to change the gateway you're using. Oh man, so you need to do it in many places, right? No, not in this situation because you have the function script, you just go in and modify it here, right? The mail step is completely the same. Okay. That's easy enough, all right? So the JSON is just a little bit fatter because we have more information like to and who's the name, CC, BCC, subject, and so on. But the concept is the same. We have some recipients here, and we put it into this JSON. So if the JSON this parameter looks the same for, like in this example, we have both SMS and email. Oh, when you get to the email and you have just built the SMS, it's so easy to just, oh yeah, I just need to add some more information, right? So it's the same, it's a function. We make sure we have the settings. Again, debug mode is really important here. So it's already built into the function saying, and of course this is hard-coded, the host name. It could be from a setting or it could be from somewhere. And the thing here is that if this situation is not completely filled, like I know exactly this is the host name, even if you haven't set the host name, it says, okay, if the host name is not equal to nothing, which it shouldn't be, never, then we're in debug mode. So we go for always debug mode unless we are absolutely sure that we are in production mode, right? So that's a safeguard, and it's really important, as everyone know, right? Then we have some settings that we grab from the settings file just into variables, just to make it easier to use. Or actually, to be honest, I copy and pasted some code in here, and we already had some variables set there, so I just used that. Nothing fancy here, but it's exactly the same. And the great thing here is this is the built-in send mail step where we are looking at, is it TLS, SSL, or none, and this is SMTP sending. So it's not with OAuth or any other. This is the most basic email sending. So when your customer say, yeah, now we need to connect to Microsoft or some other stuff, and we need to do that via an API, we cannot use the send mail step, or for other reasons we want to do it with an API. You just change the code here, but you just change the code here inside the function, and then it works all over, because it's the same function you're using, instead of having send mail steps all over the place that you need to go and adjust or maybe replace with other code. So this is why it makes so much more sense to build functions and be able to reuse it all over. And you can do proper error handling and take care of the stuff here, because it makes sense to just spend a little bit more time on building this code, because it will save you a lot of time in the end, right? Build up the JSON and return the JSON with the result of did it go good or bad or whatever. And yeah, of course, there's the utility script here to validate. It's the same thing. Here we're just doing a very simple validation, saying, yeah, that needs to be an @ sign, and there needs to be at least one dot inside the email address. Then it's valid. Of course, you can build more rules here to do even better validation, or you could even use API services out there where you can ship an email address and say, okay, is this valid or not, and so on. That's basically up to you how much effort you want to put into this part of the process, right? So let's go back into the flow stuff here. So like a flow, go somewhere and find some people, right? So that's what's going on here. Yeah?
What's the difference between a function?
Oh, you were sleeping late early on?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I know him. That's why I dared to say that. So let me see if I can find it. Function script perform a function, right? But a utility script is something that works as a sub-process for a function, like validating data or transforming data. But in its own,
Its own, it's a function.
No, yeah, but the thing is that okay, yeah, but the idea is that a utility script is a part of a function, and then you might have several functions that are using the same utility script. The utility script does not make any sense on its own. It only makes sense if you're sending out SMS, for example. You want to validate the phone numbers. It doesn't make any sense to be in other contexts saying, yeah, I want to validate the phone numbers that I'm going to send to. Does that make sense?
We can discuss this sentence.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. In my head,
Yeah.
just like it's level.
Yeah.
But the utility is a sub-function of a function, and the function is a sub of a flow script.
Yeah.
Or is there something I missed?
No. Well, it's. I think that could be a debate on words.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect.
Let me. All utility scripts are function scripts.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it. That all utility scripts can be a function, but not the other way, right? Yeah. All right, let me finish up here. So the flow script, go somewhere and find some people, right? So we are digging into the perform search and do some error handling here. As you can see, it's a comment. This is just a demo. Right. No, but you know, depending on what the result is, it makes sense to do this or that or whatever, right? And this is just to show the concepts, right? Do something, and now we want to send an SMS, so we grab the mobile numbers, and then we're just shipping off to a function. I hope you can see that, and then do the same for email, and just showing a dialogue here for the example. I hope you can see why, or see that the flow scripts then, by using functions, they become more simple as well, because there's a 30, 40, 50 lines of code going into a function, plus the utility, right? That is transforming or validating or whatever, doing something that goes in there, and we don't see that in the flow script because it's not relevant. I don't care about that. I could have a colleague who is much more clever at building email, sending, flow, script, whatever, stuff there. I just take it and use it. It can be used in many situations. I just chose to show 2 examples of something that I think most are already doing with email and SMS. So I hope it's relatable. But the flow scripts, since they are not that complex than they could be, it should be easier to see, okay, yeah, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3 in this process. And this script, the flow script, is what makes your customer and users love you, because you can build something really, really great, that efficient, that makes their day much greater. So that's the idea. All right. So let's just recap the concept of flow, function, and utility script. Reusable code is easier to maintain, and reusable code is more robust because you tend to spend more time on writing it more robust. And with modular code, you can be more productive. Modular code can, as I said, it can be many, many things. I focused on scripts because that's our main place to do coding. But a module can also be a custom function. There's one example. One of my colleagues has a solution where he wrote a ton of SQL commands all over the code in 3,000 places, I think, which is not uncommon. But now the thing is that he needs to change that to use another plugin. So now he needs to go over 3,000 places to change to other plugin code, right? If he had built a custom function saying, okay, yeah, here's my query, and please do something, and return it, he could just have changed the call from one plugin to another plugin, still the same query, and then it would have worked without having to go over 3,000 places. Okay? So, have fun, right? Yeah? All right. Yes?
Normally I start with
To use custom functions? No. Scripts? Well, no, it's 2 different things. You can do something in a custom function, which is like a calculation, but a script can do a series of things that you cannot do in a custom function. Sure. Of course, there is situations where you can do the same thing. These are I tried to build some examples that, yes, you can do that in other places. You could probably do the send email stuff in a custom function as well. But they are not built for that. And it's easier to maintain a script than it is to maintain a custom function, right? You need to be a code geek more in a custom function than you need to be in a script, right? So it's not like you should always use custom function, you should always use function scripts, but it's depend on the situation, right? That's why I said, okay, for this example with the SQL call, if you had put that into a custom function, doing the abstraction there, is that a module? Well, that could be debated, but it falls under the same parachute of making reusable code that is easy to maintain. And then you could have saved yourself a lot of time from redoing 3,000 places by just doing it in one place, right? Sure. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Uh, could you say repeat, please? Yes. Well, that's reducing the places. For example, sending emails out instead of having sent mail in many scripts all over your solution, you have it in one place. So that's the idea. Send mail, for example, that function, send mail. If you have that in 100 scripts, now you only have it in one place. No, not record. No, 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 no. No, I'm not talking about data. I just stated that we use relational databases because we don't want to have the same data in several places. That was just a statement that you can agree on or not. But that's the main goal of relational databases. That is to only have the data one time, right? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 But that's
What's your take on that?
yeah, well, that's exactly the point of doing the abstraction layer, is that you put the function into a script. In this example, I'm just using script steps, but I could utilize your Apple script code or shell script in that example. Or I
My point is,
yes,
you reuse
all over. Yeah,
yeah, all over.
yeah,
And if you
no, 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 no. That was my point. With using the JSON, you don't have to update all over. You can.
no, you don't get my point.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
On different servers.
Yeah.
So change
Yeah. Yeah. In one solution on one server, and then you want to put it into the other solution on another server.
even if it's on the same server.
Yeah, whatever.
The function is not
No,
the other.
no. Um, of course, you need to You need to do these function scripts several times in order to get a structure that is working. The idea with using the JSON as parameter is that it's relatively easy to just say, yeah, of course you cannot change the recipient block of the JSON. There's some stuff you cannot, but you can add to that. If you want to do different validation, if you have other options, then you can just copy and paste the code, the script, and it will be the same. You cannot copy and paste the script itself because it has a script ID, and then you get different script ID. But you can take the you can take the content of the script and copy and paste. Of course, yeah. It's FileMaker.
Still better than writing it 3 times.
Yeah, that's the idea. And if you did see, yeah, yeah, yeah,
We did talk about that
some years ago.
some
Yeah,
years ago
yeah,
on custom functions,
yeah,
blah blah.
yeah.
Have a look.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
an ABI.
But nothing comes. There's always trade-offs. There will always be trade-offs. So sometimes, and it's also about not over-engineering. So what, John?
With custom functions, using calls,
Mm-hmm.
that's very good. Comes out.
Of course.
Very often,
Mm-hmm.
that either does its job or it spits out,
Yeah.
and your code then processes
Yeah.
that the folder already exists,
Sure. Sure.
so if you want to really
Yeah.
error returning.
Which was my point with doing abstraction, right? But yeah, for sure.
To do it properly.
Of course. Yeah. So it's an exercise to get there. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.